And praise the Lord that it's another nice day in the fall. And we have a really interesting, wonderful conversational program where we'll talk about our participants and the wisdom that we'll be hearing. I can just say, as a former middle school maniac, I loved teaching middle school kids. It was my heart and soul and best days. That I welcome maybe youth a little bit older, but still wise. And because to me, we always underestimate the wisdom, the value, the energy of our future, and it's our youth. So before I get into the full introductions, let's just take a moment for prayer. Loving God, we give thanks today for the clarity of fall days and the wonder and diversity of its remarkable shades and hues. We're especially grateful this morning for the caring commitment of young people who have joined us to stay with us, Lord. Quiet us so that we can listen to and revere the wisdom of their thoughts and voices as they guide us to see and build today's church into the more important church of the future. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. So, just to let our audience know and those who are with us, sort of how we came into this program and into being is that, we have been as a church celebrating our 70 years of being as a church and gone through lots of different phases of recognizing leaders of the past and the many contributions of the past and looking forward to current leaders to what we need to be thinking about for the future. But we figured that we really had not had the time to sit down and hear the voices of our youth. And therefore, we decided, gosh, let's call on our youth. Now, we're doing this on a holiday weekend.
I know.
And a time when even many of our church leaders were not here, but among our most valued of leaders, Rosanna, is here to introduce us so that we can have a conversation and listen to what we are looking forward to and what we may need to address to correct as we form ourselves and going into the future. Rosanna.
Thank you, Carol. Yeah, I am Rosanna Howard. I'm the Director of Children, Youth, and Family Ministries here at Bradley Hills, and I have had just the supreme honor of learning from our youth. Our youth are remarkable, and every time I spend time with them, I am more and more impressed with them. I'm more proud of them. I love watching intergenerational interactions with our youth. I always encourage folks to chaperone a trip or come hang out because they're a good time. They're a lot of fun. And yes, and Kim will second that. But that is one of my favorite things is watching the congregation get to experience what I get to experience all the time. And so we have some wonderful youth who are here on a 4-day weekend, and they are saints for being here this early in the morning. And I will ask them to just introduce themselves. They'll tell you what grade they are, where they go to school, and then how long they have been attending Bradley Hills, because we've got a little bit of variety here. So I'll start down here with you, Alex.
I'm Alex. I'm in 8th grade. I go to Boosville High School. No, not 8th grade. It's not 9th grade. I'm so stuck in the past.
It's okay. It's early.
And I've been attending Bradley Hills for about 3 years, maybe 4.
Okay. I'm Eloise.
If you guys could just speak up. Yeah. Be bold. We need to hear you. And so, thank you. Earl.
I'm Eloise Scribner. I go to Woodson High School. I'm in sophomore year. What was the?
How long have you been?
Oh, I don't know. How long have
Most of your life or?
most of my life?
Yeah.
I'm Luisa Castro Neves. I'm in 8th grade and I go to Thomas Powell Middle School and I think I've been here for like 4 months.
Yeah, yeah, Louise is one of our newest youth, but I thought it's really important, to see what drew Louisa, to our youth group and, as well as those who were raised in the church and have been attending for a while, and since they were probably in the crib room. I think it offers a unique perspective. And so Alex and Eloise were in our most recent confirmation class and confirmands, and Louisa will be going through confirmation in the future. And you know, I was just blown away by our youth and their statements of faith and expressions of faith in this last confirmand class, and I sort of used that to guide some of the ways I wanted to facilitate. So if I'm gonna just start with a little like warm up. So I'm gonna ask each of you guys if you could use one word to describe our church right now, in this moment, what would you use to describe it?
We go down another.
Yeah, we'll go this way.
I think probably inclusive because even though I was like the newest member here, when I first went to Desserts and Devotion, everybody was acting like I had been here since the crib room and I really enjoyed that.
I feel like also like welcoming because our church is such a inclusive space and I just feel really safe and at home here.
I'd say friendly, cause like everyone has been really nice and friendly, since I've been here.
What's something you love about being a part of our church or youth group? We'll start around here with Alex. What do you love about?
Pretend like you're talking to your friends, so. You gotta get that far, they're coming, but you gotta make sure that they hear you.
Probably all the friendly games that everyone does and yeah,
Awesome.
friendly games.
I like the friends I've made here. People here are really nice and really kind and friendly. So, yeah.
What do you love?
I really like youth group. Youth group is my favorite because I think it makes it easier for people to make friends their age, but also like people that aren't their age, and because we all have something in common, and that's because we're at youth group, so I really like that.
Awesome. So thinking broader about church, not just maybe Bradley Hills, but church in general. When you, not your parents, not me, but when you picture church, what comes to mind? Is it a place, is it a feeling, a community, something else? What comes to mind to you when you think of church?
Community, just like everybody celebrating just together in glory, so.
I would also say community because I feel like church is the people around us helping us.
Yeah, I'd say a warm, welcoming community that everyone loves being part of. Everyone that's part of it just likes to be there.
One thing I always share about our youth, is that our youth, especially in the DMV, are unlike young people that you will find in churches in most places. And I think they are, just tremendous because of what makes them different and sets them apart. You know, they are growing up in a part of the country and in this area where they have friends, who practice a variety of other faiths. They have Jewish friends, they have, Muslim friends, they have Buddhist friends, they have a lot of friends who don't go to church. And this is not the Bible Belt. This is not, a place where Sunday is Sabbath and that time is sacred. You know, there are still parts of the country where a soccer game is not going to be scheduled on a Sunday morning. That is not true here. They have activities that are scheduled on Sunday mornings. Their friends are doing other things on Sunday mornings or evenings. And they have a choice. They choose to be here. And they are vastly different than a lot of the youth that we encounter when we go on trips and have a chance to fellowship with youth from other parts of the country. And I think it makes them just that much more open because of the interfaith spaces in which they reside. But I always encourage everyone to keep that in mind when you encounter our youth in this church, is that they have made a choice to be here. They're not here because all their friends are here. They're not here because they don't have anything else to do. Sometimes they're making huge sacrifices to be at church or to go on a trip or to be present at youth group. And I take that very seriously and I honor that. But I think what this notion of community being the most important is what drives that. So I will I'll move on to my next question and so now my question is, what do we think the church will look like 10 to 20 years from now?
Maybe the same.
Maybe this,
Maybe the same. I don't really, maybe a lot will be online.
It might be on.
It might, like, sometimes it might be online. I don't know. 10 years is a lot, but it's also, I don't think it's gonna change drastically unless something drastic happens. So, yeah.
I feel like there will be less of a community at church because right now, in our current situation, there's a lot of bad things that are like not stemming from church, but people are using church as an excuse to promote their propaganda. And I think that it's dissuading some people from going to church, which is why I think we should have more open churches like our church that are openly supportive of people who want to go to church, but they don't know how they feel about church since everything that is going on right now.
I think that everything's gonna be a bit more online. The building will probably stay the same, except I hope there's gonna be an elevator added.
Yeah, we'll be opening this up as people.
Yeah,
I have some questions. Hold on to your questions, because I know we'd like to talk some more.
Yeah.
As we go through these.
well, and Alex, I think, given his family has a unique perspective as
Yeah.
well. So, I'm gonna push you a little further. Because it was a cool exercise we actually did in VBS, not this past summer, but the summer before. We did an intersectional curriculum with an emphasis on inclusion. And one of the things that they tasked small children, not just youth, with, was looking around our church and our building and seeing ways in which we could be more inclusive. Ways in which we may be excluding, people of varying abilities, with, the structure of the building, the accessibility. And so I think Alex, because he's, my guess is Alex is more mindful than most, given, his sister, that, you know, what are ways besides an elevator? Like, what do you see? Where are we missing the boat in terms of our inclusion and accessibility?
Ramps,
Ramps?
yeah, ramps,
Yeah.
ramps, elevators. And those sort of things, yeah.
Mhm.
Things that could help people, be a part of church,
Mhm.
that have certain conditions.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think, yeah, I think that's something that, you know, is, especially as we, you know, move into a capital campaign, thinking about the future of the building. That it's important to think about, you know, the accessibility of our building, and are we as inclusive as we can be? So, yeah. Let's dig a little deeper though, in terms of thinking, about the future, of the church. What do you see? And it's interesting because we, you know, we are a church that does not offer a contemporary worship service. And it's interesting when I take these young folks, to retreats and things like that. We often are a little bit on the outside. We don't know the latest praise songs. And that's not how we worship. And so it's an interesting thing, as a youth minister to consider. While I love the traditional service, and I think there's a lot of value in being in a traditional service. You know, worship on a lot of fronts is changing. We are fairly traditional here at Bradley Hills. And so my question is, you know, how do you think worship will change, as we move into the future? What do you think?
Like what we hope for, or what do you think is gonna happen?
What do you hope for? Let's start with that.
Well, when I used to go to church in Brazil, it was very like expressive, like the music, like everybody would stand up and like start dancing. And I think here, especially the first time it became, me and my mom stood up and we're like, okay, yeah, it's time to dance. And the music started playing, everybody was just sitting there. And I felt really like, oh, okay. And I think I like the hymns, but sometimes it's just like, I think we could maybe do something a little bit different.
Okay.
I think I like how church is right now for other people, because I know a lot of people really enjoy how our church is right now. But I think we should have more contemporary options for people to come earlier or later than this service for um a more youth centered or even led church service, because it's hard for, I know it's hard for some kids to sit through like the church service right now, but I think it is very useful to have our church service right now for certain people.
What do you think, Alex?
If you remember, the youth-led worship, this year, that happened this year. Just imagining something like that or similar to that, basically every single worship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good point.
That's important. So thinking about both worship and what takes place outside of worship, what would make church feel more meaningful and relevant for young people? You know, Eloise, you said it, sometimes it's hard for kids to sit through a traditional worship service, or maybe it's harder to connect with the liturgy in its traditional form. What could we do to make it more meaningful for young people?
I'd say have more inclusive parts of the worship, like have more times where people can stand up and sing, or like do things that is part of the church, like.
Yeah, so a less passive, more active connection.
Mhm.
I think that makes sense, knowing what I know about your generation. What do you think? What can make church more meaningful?
I think that having more inclusive spaces in the church for if people, like, for me personally, like, I don't see God in worship, I see God in the things that I do outside of worship. I see God in the just being in the church. I like to wander around the church during the morning to see just how quiet and nice it is to just be here. And I think that, like, it would be really beneficial to have a worship service that isn't just talking or praying or singing. It could be like just sitting in the church or meditating or listening to music, just sitting in the church room.
Interesting.
I think a little bit of what Alex said, maybe a little bit more like youth involvement in the services. Because I think it would bring like more like youth saying like, oh, I belong here, like I have a purpose here because I'm being involved in these services. So I think, yeah, I would really enjoy that.
Yeah. I think that, yes, and I will say this too, that one of the things I've observed about especially our young people here at Bradley Hills, is they are extremely missional. That the service is important. You know, we went to Appalachian Service Project for our mission trip this summer, and we just so happened to be partnered with a rather large, much more evangelical, conservative Presbyterian church from Houston. And their youth group's complaint was that there wasn't enough Bible study, small group, worship, et cetera, on the mission trip. And so they sort of would go and do their own, Bible study or whatever, and that was their thing. And they weren't very invested so much in the mission project. I would listen to them, and they didn't necessarily understand sort of the assignment, I guess, for lack of a better word. And I mean, even the leaders voiced that. They said, we're used to, going on trips where we have, multiple worship services a day and multiple Bible studies and small groups and et cetera. And I was like, yeah, I was like, yeah, that's really not what the mission trip structure is about. But, meanwhile, it was really interesting because I think our young people, when they go in on service and mission, they go hard, and it's sometimes hard to take them away from it. I noticed our young people, they were invested in these homes that they were building. They wanted to do a good job, and they wanted to stay and get the job done. I mean, we had a site that wasn't incredibly productive because we didn't have the right tools and things, and they wanted to keep going and show up. It's important. It's important to them. And so that is something that I also see that is very unique, is I can't get them to show up necessarily for Bible study, but they'll show up to do service work. And I think that tells you something about this generation and what where their values lie. What do you think? Yeah, so how could knowing that about yourselves and what you value, how could that shape the future of church? What do you think?
Yeah, I think more services for helping the community, because I think our generation is kind of realizing that it's time for us maybe to take some action. And like I think we could enjoy Bible studies, but I think we will more feel fulfilled if we do services for the greater good, like for the community.
I think that it's just like school where some people can't learn by just having someone talk at them or taking notes or going through a slideshow. Some people can't even learn sitting in a certain chair. It has to be a comfortable chair that they can not like overthink or, yeah.
Yeah,
So, I think having different options for those people who don't see God or learn from the Bible, um, in the traditional way, um, would be really helpful for those people.
what do you think, Alex?
I think that people of this generation are more invested in getting out there and making a difference in helping people than staying and just doing Bible study. Like they'd rather be doing something to help others than uh learning. Uh, then
Yeah, that makes sense. I wanna wonder if you could maybe design your own. Sometimes I do this with them where we like, I call it like a Barbie dream house. And we did this, the confirmands did this last session where I was like, this is your Barbie dream house, but it's your Barbie dream church. And if you could design your dream church, what would it look like? And it's funny, that's not really I'm not so much concerned architecturally, because that's really the focus, but it's cool because it shows you their values. So like a lot of them will have all of these spaces in which you can be social, and or active. They'll be like, here's the swimming pool, and or here's the giant tree house. But I think what you're hearing them say about church needing to feel active and needing to, and the value of community and the value of helping the greater community tells you about sort of where they're and then thinking about their own Barbie dream churches, that is where their values lie. But instead, if you could, design your church of the future, what would it look like, and what would it include, and what might it leave out based on?
I think I would really like in the main service hall itself, I think we could remove a lot of pews and replace them like with, as Ellie said, like fun, comfortable chairs, maybe bean bags, I don't know, like just a bunch of variety of chairs for different people. And I think I would also have an elevator and ramps just to be inclusive. And I would I think I would have a lot more things outside, because for something I like to go outside and like see God in the world. So I think having like maybe our own forest outside or something. And then, yeah, and then maybe a bunch of other lounges. And then that's pretty much it,
Spaces?
yeah.
I think we
Similar to what
Louisa.
Louisa said, I really like to be outside, so like a worship space for outdoors when it's like good weather. We could have worship outside. I would have maybe a prayer room where there's comfortable seating so that people who don't learn from the Bible, like having someone talk at them, can go to the prayer room and just be in the presence of God. And comfortable seating in the worship hall. And obviously elevators and ramps and those little buttons where you push it and the door opens for you.
Like it. Alex, what you think?
Yeah, basically what those two said, but with one more thing.
What would you add?
Wind chipes where the organ and horn, the things are.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
some wind chimes?
yeah.
Oh, I like it.
Really cool.
Having some wind chimes.
Definitely like it.
Do you wanna, should we open up to questions or you wanna,
You are not disappointing. One thing you are doing is making me miss teaching middle school.
I know, they are.
I know the wisdom is here.
Mhm.
And I think that what we've heard is a beginning.
Mhm.
So where would you like to follow up? Diane, do you have something new? Well, I will say that Pat Stalker did make this remark in the chat that she struck. We heard from Paul Vasily,
Mhm.
and he led us and encouraged us and got us moving and working together and singing together last week. And as Pat noted, she said, "Oh, wow, this really goes along with a lot of Paul's visions and what we experience." But anyway, go ahead. Diane?
Two things have struck me, and I have, I guess, a couple of questions related to it. One, it sounds like you all were, several of you would be interested in having more worldwide music
Mm.
in worship.
Mhm.
Is that,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Mhm.
And then two, it also sounds like you're interested in doing more like a spirituality and nature
Mhm.
group, where it would be like a subset of church, where you could actually have like you could either walk on the grounds, have an outdoor service, which they do during the summertime, but actually maybe going over to the C&O Canal and walking along the
Mhm.
C&O as a nature group, and then looking at the rock formations, for instance, or something, and then just kind of having like a small group discussion at the picnic tables over in Carter Rock. I'm just, that's just the thought. Just the thought.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I also had two thoughts that came up while they were speaking. The first was, there was a lot of talk about community.
Mhm.
And our eldest son just went to college, and when he was applying to colleges, he based his essay around his experience here in the youth group. And it was all about the community. And, I mean, the whole essay was about the community that he experienced and it supported him here at this church. And then the other thing I was thinking, as they were talking about creating spaces that are different, but also being more welcoming to different cultures, different perspectives. And the idea of having an outdoor space that is that allows for meditation made me think of Asian tea gardens. And Asian cultures oftentimes have these really curated spaces that are close to nature. And we could, in doing so, not just create spaces for youth and people who want to be out in nature, but also including another cultural perspective.
Yeah, I would hope that we're not limiting any of their comments to the youth. That this is something our entire church could embrace in different ways, perhaps. But anyway, yeah,
Thank you so much for you are our future, and the capital campaign to me is very important because investing in who you are, even if you're not gonna be here in 6 years, it's where you're gonna be over the next, till you go off to college. And thank you so much for your comments. Just thoughts about, I know, music like with, praise bands or praise, the different kinds of, music. Would having a song each, worship service presented by the youth, or having one like a month where the youth, or we do a little bit more bringing in praise, would that be enough to, I don't want to say scratch your itch, or, I mean, trying to, because I know I've been in church all my life, but, and I'm older now, and I really do enjoy the hymns, but I also I've listened to praise music on the radio and everything, and I've been in churches where that is a focus. But, what would you think would be drawing to you as far as the need? And also, I'm just thinking about they used to have little prayer rooms, and how important that would be so that you could get away and just say, where your thoughts are in a, not necessarily a huge room, but, I've seen churches where they may have a small room where you can even meet with another person and just pray with them if they're going through something, or pray by yourself. If that would be something that would be easy to do here, and would that be something that would be, scratch an itch as well?
Yeah, I think it would scratch our itch.
Yeah, and I mean, what I've seen is where our youth don't necessarily love a praise band. That's not even it. But I think they do this a nice job of this at Montreat and at Massanetta is they punch up the hymns, and so we're doing hymns, but with a guitar, or with drums. And, and making them, making you want to move a little more maybe, or just offering it in a different way that isn't an organ. And I think that there's a way in which that, and then they will incorporate some more contemporary music, but there is a nice middle ground of music out there that isn't, that doesn't require stage lights and a band and amps and all of that, that is accessible, I think, to lots of generations. And so I think, like I said, they're not necessarily dying for a praise band. I don't think that's it. I think, that's not to say that if we had one that the youth wouldn't attend, but I think there's a middle ground. But one thing I hope you all hear, and I think is the greatest lesson that I've learned from this generation is seeing other people where they are, and that inclusiveness that acknowledges these different needs. You hear them say, well, what about people who learn differently or pray differently or experience God differently? I mean, they're even up here acknowledging that the worship as it is right now meets lots of people's needs, because they see that, they recognize that. And that is this generation's greatest gift, I think, is this ability to see differences, embrace differences, make space for others, and the ways in which they encounter the world. And that is where I learn a lot from them. It's just that they are looking around and they are taking note of the needs of others and how they may be different from their own, and how they may not be being met. And there's a sensitivity there and an empathy there that is just so deep. And so, if anything, I hope that you all are here, that I think that's their true greatest gift. Patty, did you?
I think.
Sorry.
Just following up on that, I'm curious, embracing others, in our interfaith traditions, and, have you been participating in some of the youth things, and has that really inspired you, and is that something we should keep on doing?
Before you go on, I know you introduced yourselves, but not everybody was on, so if you could each tell us your names again, that it would help us
Sure.
with our audience, so that we.
Alright,
Okay, I'm Louisa Castro Neves, and do I sound like
Louisa?
Yeah, I'm Louisa, and I'm an 8th grader, and I go to Thomas Powell Middle School.
Okay, and
I'm Eloise Scribner. I am a sophomore and I go to Whitson High School.
so, and Eloise.
Eloise.
Okay,
ELLISE.
And, okay, thanks, and
I'm Alex Mace. I'm a junior at Louisville High School. I mean, no, not freshman.
We're gonna get it, we're gonna get it one of these.
I have a bad.
You're on the accelerated path.
Yeah.
so thank you, thanks a lot, and we are getting very positive comments. Venus Masalam is blown away by the wisdom and what we're finding out from all of you all, so your audience is very excited. Yes, go ahead.
I had one more thought on it seems like we already have a lot of structure in the way we do things here that could embrace a lot of the things that they're talking about. I just saw that I think there's a quartet that's warming up in the sanctuary today. They're visiting. Why not have other kinds of music come to visit us? We could have a a church where they sing and get everybody dancing to come and be part of our congregation every once in a while. And I think that the other thing that helps people, especially youth, is to see people that look like them up on the stage, right? When they see people who look like them and sound like them up on the stage and speaking, they feel like, oh, I can be that person. And they also feel like I'm part of this community, right? And so we do a great job of bringing our interfaith events every once in a while. But maybe we need to expand upon that and have more people coming up and visiting and presenting during services. Maybe we can invite more people to come in and speak to our congregation. And we could ask members of our congregation, who would they like to see? That way they would start to be able to see some of the people that look like them and sound like them on our stage.
And I'm sorry, apparently Susan Vanderbilt, we would all like to know each other's names, because as you know, and I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Benjamin Scribner, I'm Eloise's dad.
But, excuse me, could you repeat again your name?
Benjamin Scribner.
Yes, okay, thanks, Ben, yeah. And Andrew, do you have a question?
Anderson, questions came to mind as we were speaking is, what kinds of things could we do as a church to reach out to communicate to your peers that we're an inclusive, welcoming church, and that would be effective in speaking to them? And another thought that kind of went through my mind, one of the comments that came through is, would it be helpful to have things like concerts in the evening at the church that would attract young people, not necessarily service oriented, but just so that they understand that this is a place, a church that is a place to go to be at. And then the third thought that came to my mind is, what kind of service activities we do locally that would young people would want to participate in to become more of part of the neighborhood, the environment, the close-in environment, as opposed to the mission trips where you're going out somewhere far, so that you have those service opportunities here and perhaps continuing. We do internally, we do the smart sacks, but but maybe there's something where we can reach out and be part of the community and, show ourselves there.
Yeah, I mean, the smart sacks, I think they're really smart. I think it's really clever, and I think like if we made it more local, I think it would be a really big success. Cause I remember when we had a different group of people singing, like a different choir singing. They did some of the smart sacks with us, and they were really into it, and they were around our age. And I think that even if they didn't go to their church, they still wanted to do it. So I think if we made it more local, more people would want to come.
So people would know
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that people know about.
Right.
artists and how that works as much, I mean.
You mean outside?
Outside, yeah.
Right, the neighborhood,
Uh,
yeah, and actually, this,
Sing outside the church is a challenge.
It
for
is.
me.
I mean, like, I know.
Lane does
from
this.
the summer. And, yeah, I'm one of the coordinators for Smart Stacks, and without divulging too much information, there is talk in the capital campaign of expanding the food mission
Mhm.
part of this church to sort of, to think in terms of it maybe being an identifiable mission for Bradley Hills in Bethesda. But that will involve a lot more people.
Mhm.
And some of it involves time away from the church. One reason that Smart Sacks works really well, and I've been with it pretty much since the beginning, it was much smaller. And we were in the hall and we had to fight for this space. Oh, that's the problem. We have an enormous facility here, but I was thinking of Eloise, and I would love a quiet space too. That I could, and the other challenge is getting into this beautiful place during the week. Like, I might want to come on a Wednesday morning and sit in this holy space. And so I, even though I'm many years older than each of you, I resonate a lot with what you're saying, but just keep that in mind, because there is a lot of talk, because food insecurity is not really a controversial issue.
No.
So it would be something, because a lot of the things, the missions that we've talked about, and I've been at some of the meetings, I'm not technically on the mission, committee, but it doesn't, some people would not be as happy with doing this or that or the other, but nobody says, I'm against giving food to people. It just isn't, you wouldn't be in a church if you were opposed to that.
I think
So-
our location is challenging.
Yes.
We are surrounded by $1 million homes, in a very affluent neighborhood. And, the youth and I went to, Anacostia to Faith Presbyterian, and nothing brings me greater joy than going there. And yet it pains me that we have to get in a car and drive 45 minutes, because I say, what message are we sending to our young people that we have to head out, and go into a specific neighborhood in order to be of service, and, that was one of the first mission trip I led was I spent time at Second Presbyterian in Richmond, which is downtown. And the people in need are their neighbors and on their doorstep, literally spending the night. And it makes a difference. And now I'm not saying we up and relocate Bradley Hills, but there are churches that have, that like my parents' church in Orlando, Florida, is in Winter Park and is in an affluent part of but they also have a downtown ministry that, they have a building space downtown and they have worship services there. They have a minister who is a associate pastor who is exclusively there to minister to that community and to connect the two communities. And so, but that is a challenge that we run into here is how to be of service to our neighbors, and where those people in need are in relation to our physical location. And it's a challenge.
Yeah.
So it is something to think in mind about, I don't necessarily see our neighborhood changing anytime soon in terms of, affordable housing coming to Bradley Hills. So, we have to think about how we go out and how we, encounter, those in need in the community and how we get outside of our own little bubble of privilege. And how we expand. But yeah, Andrew, it's a challenge. I mean, it's something that we think about constantly is, is who is my neighbor? And if my neighbor's house is $2 million, how can I be of maximum service for the greater good,
Yep, it's a challenge. But
Right.
because-
Any thoughts on that? I'm sorry, I ran with that, but no. Agreement or, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's,
Good question. I mean, I think that there's a deacon assigned to the youth and an elder. Maybe, I think there's, I
We have a
don't.
youth elder and two youth deacons.
Okay, and do you all meet and discuss some of your thoughts like this, what you shared like this morning, to let them know what you're thinking about, what would make you more involved, or maybe invite people from your school or your neighborhood to come and participate? Is that something that is shared, or is that a different purpose? What the deacon and the elders, for the youth, I mean, do you
I
guys
think
know?
it's changing. So
Okay.
I think by design, yes. Have they always felt comfortable or like they had a place doing so? Not necessarily. But, so I think, we had, I hope all of you got a chance to meet Daniela, and experience Daniela, Inga, and she is, in France now. But when Daniela was a deacon, she sort of changed the way the role of the youth deacon. And Daniela was one of the first who was helping with memorial services and doing the deacon of the week and showing up. And now we have Brendan Gray, who is actively involved with the interfaith movement and is sitting on that committee and is bringing the youth voice to that. And so that is something that we talk about, David and Denise and I and the youth committee, in terms of, as we think, I want that level of involvement, that level of them having a voice, and sharing. And so it ultimately resides on, the older generation, making them feel welcome and making them feel like they can share and that their opinions matter and that their voice matters. And so I think we're shifting towards that. And I think we've got, some wonderful nominees coming up and, who are gonna continue that tradition, which is the goal. But it is a matter of, giving them a voice, and listening. And I think this is a great forum for that. And, I think, and we've talked a great deal about getting youth involved more in worship. I think, when we have Youth Sunday, the things the youth do in Youth Sunday are brilliant. And I think nobody would be mad to see more of that. Yeah.
Just to follow up on that, because it's a theme that's come up a number of times from your comments and from comments on the tables. Can you give me an example or an idea that you have about a meaningful way to structure on a systematic basis, having your presence in worship be more regular? So, we have examples now where this happens once a year, this happens intermittently. But one of the ideas that I've heard today is we could do more of that and so what would that look like? How would you envision youth having a visible presence as part of worship leadership on Sunday mornings?
I think like you could add youth into any part of the worship service, as shown by Youth Sunday, where we led every part of the worship service, we could help out with any part of it.
Reading scripture.
Yeah, read
Yeah.
scripture, do the
I
call to
think,
worship.
Well, let's mention, and he's right, the power of that, the services that the youth have done. It's not that you can't do it, and we're witnessing how amazing you are and talented you are. And that we just need to be more mindful of that. And a lot of, frankly, I'm a little jealous of some of the suggestions that you have in building community. Our adults need to be more comfortable in building community and doing more things like youth group together. If we could have adult youth group or whatever and have fun together, we need to do that more.
We call it open nesters.
We have minute for mission, we could have a minute with the youth.
Yeah.
What's on the minds of the youth and how is what's on their mind and what's going on in the world relating to
Mhm.
how they feel about God and being part of our mission.
To be more intentional
Mhm.
in having the minute for youth. Yeah.
Well, and one of the ways in which I'm hoping to make it happen is building it into, as part of the confirmation curriculum, is, because I want it to be more experiential. I want them to be actively, and, as we're learning about sacrament, that they're preparing communion, and as we learn about, missional work, that we are actually in service. And so the same with worship. And so I'm trying to build it in that way, and then hope that then grows into the, we see that confirmands up reading scripture. Now, that's just a part of what we do now, is that involvement, Evan.
So Eloise joined the church in 2014, which was because I joined the church in 2014, which was my first experience with any kind of a Christian experience. Okay, so I'm very new to this whole process, and this is the only process I've experienced. So I don't know how flexible the services can be. And when they say we should meet people where they are, maybe we should be looking at who are our youth and what is it that, maybe some of them sing, maybe some of them have other talents, maybe some of them have other interests. And maybe if we were to say, okay, this youth is interested in participating in our service, let's figure out how we can incorporate that and maybe if we could be flexible in what we do with the service, we could bring something new and inspiring to everyone.
I think we just really have time for one more comment. Diane, go ahead, and then I will say that there are some comments in the chat that I'll share, and then
I
we'll
think
celebrate.
in that way, we could be more
Powerful, so-
inclusive in what service they give to our standing committees, things like chancel guild and the chancel players and things like that. And certainly inviting the those who are who are the confirmands to be part of that. Some of that integral process. We have people who might play guitar, who might to make them an integral part of what we have, but inviting people more.
I think, and doing it in an inviting way.
Yes.
You're not gotta be the sole person.
No.
Right, I mean, yeah, we don't want to add to your already busy schedule and plate. We want to make it organic and.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes.
Pat Stalkers has added several more comments about when her daughter came back from college, the one thing she wanted to do was to visit Bradley Hills. There's a real positive feeling about Bradley Hills. But, we really do have to look in the future, and I know what you're up against. I mean, we're in a community of nuns, a lot of, I mean, I know you have folks in different religions, but we also have an awful lot of friends, I'm sure, that don't attend church at all. So making Bradley Hills an attraction is really up to us in the entire community. And I think that your power, I think we've proven something. This is probably the most dynamic, interactive session adult ed has had in a really long time. And there might have been some people staying away because it was the youth speaking when here you are, your voice is so appreciated and heard. I picked this quote ahead of time. I don't know if you all follow Anne Lamott at any point in time, but she's definitely one of my favorite writers. And she had said, when we are afraid, us adults, it can feel impossible to act. Given the state of the world, we may be tempted to despair, but I hope we will remember this. The passion and the creativity of young people can help save us. If only we relinquish control of what we think they should be doing and how they should be responding to the fears they face. If only we let go of our golden calves, those ways of being that we believe are inviolate. If only we allow them to teach us. And I can't thank you enough this morning for what you think. We recorded this session. I also have a transcript. Also, let me just look down here. Dave, I know Louise Meyer adds hers. Her congratulations. And thanks to Rosanna for your directorship.
Absolutely.
And I know that David Gregg was in on this and many others, and really it's up to us as a community. I also want us to continue because next Sunday we have Speaker Lynette Ross, who will be speaking to the current situation and needs of the LGBT community. She is the current pastor of United Church of Christ and interim minister of First Congregational Church of Houston. And Lynette is a very dynamic, inspiring person. Please continue. Our sessions are recorded. And, you know, you can go on YouTube and actually we've got a lot of good recordings. So if you're bored and you know, that streaming that you wanted to, seriously, it's amazing what Bradley Hills has on YouTube. It's a place to go. And this session will be among the very favorites. So we really thank you so much for being here, showing up and freaking out.
Thank you guys for getting up when you first.
Especially after home.
Well, we just need to help. Yeah.